End of times, Islamic history, reminders, and current affairs. Subscribe to our channel and stay connected for the latest insights, reminders, and detailed updates on Islamic history and contemporary events. The meaning of the verses, a deeper reflection. In the noble Qur'an, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals profound truths about history and the destiny of nations. Allah, the Most High, tells us in the preserved tablet, a divine record that was written long before the creation of the heavens and the earth. It was decreed that the children of Israel would commit corruption on earth not just once but twice. They would rise to positions of power, but their rise would be marked by oppression and injustice. This was a foretold reality, and history bears witness to it. Allah says, "And we decreed for the children of Israel in the book that you will surely cause corruption on the earth twice, and you will surely reach a degree of great haughtiness." Surah Al-Isra 17:4. Allah made it clear that when they would be granted power, they would misuse it, leading to widespread corruption. But Allah's plan is always just and precise. After these acts of corruption, Allah mentions the first promise. What is this first promise? It is the promise of accountability, that when the first period of corruption is completed, Allah would send against them a group referred to as servants of ours. What does it mean when Allah says, servants of ours? It's essential to understand that in the Quran, when Allah uses the term servants, abadna, it can have different meanings based on the context. Sometimes it refers to Allah's righteous and devout believers, those who are close to Him, who strive for justice, faith, and good character. Other times it refers simply to human beings as the creation of Allah, regardless of their faith or righteousness. In this sense, Allah may use any nation or group, whether they are Muslims, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, or others, to fulfill His divine will. All creation belongs to Allah, and He can use anyone as a means to establish His decree. When Allah used them, and the verse from Mation, and the dispending decision. So Allah says, "So when the time of the promise of the first of the two came, we sent against you servants of ours, those of great military might, who ravaged your homes, and it was a promise fulfilled." Surah Al-Isra 17:5. These servants were not necessarily believers. They could be any group Allah chose as instruments of His justice. They entered the land, overtook cities, roamed freely throughout the homes and markets, and completely occupied the territory. This was total domination and subjugation, a complete loss of control for the children of Israel. When did this historical event occur? Scholars link it to moments in history when major powers like the Babylonians, Romans, or Persians conquered their lands, destroyed their cities, and exiled their people. These invasions were not random acts. They were the unfolding of Allah's decree in response to corruption and the breaking of their covenant with Allah. Key reflections. Allah's justice is always fulfilled. Power comes with responsibility, and when people use it to oppress, Allah's divine plan sets their reckoning in motion. Allah may choose any group, regardless of faith or nationality, to carry out His will. History is not just a sequence of events, it is a reflection of Allah's wisdom, mercy, and justice working through the actions of nations and individuals. Stay connected. To learn more about these powerful lessons from Islamic history and how they relate to our current world events, subscribe and join us for future sessions. May Allah keep us guided and grant us understanding. Continuing from the historical sequence, after the initial corruption and punishment of the children of Israel, various powerful empires came and took control of their lands. Among them were the Babylonians, the Assyrians, and later the Egyptians. Each of these nations played a role in overpowering and displacing the Israelites due to their repeated corruption and betrayal of Allah's commands. Eventually, the Romans came and took full control, followed by the Byzantines, who remained dominant in the region of Palestine and surrounding areas for many centuries, approximately 1,000 to 2,000 years. Their rule continued until a significant change occurred, as foretold in the Quran, the second return and the change of power. Allah says in the Quran, "Then we gave you back your return over them and reinforced you with wealth and sons and made you more numerous in manpower." Surah Al-Isra 17:6. Who is being addressed here? Who is you? Scholars of Tafsir explain that this refers to the Muslims, the believers. Allah is describing the moment when the power shifted once again. But when exactly did this happen? Many scholars link this to the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the era of the rightly guided caliphs. During these periods, the Muslims began to confront and ultimately defeat the Roman and Byzantine forces, gradually taking control of Palestine, Jerusalem, and the surrounding regions. This interpretation suggests that Allah is telling us about a restoration of victory for the believers, that after a long time under Roman and Byzantine rule, the Muslims were returned to power. It's important to note that during the time when Muslims regained control of these lands, the Israelites were no longer a dominant presence in Palestine. The region had been under the control of the Romans and Byzantines for centuries. This aligns with Allah's statement about increasing the numbers and strength of the believers, signifying a new era where the Ummah would rise in dominance. Multiple interpretations. However, scholars also offer several interpretations of these verses. One interpretation is that the two periods of corruption refer to specific historical events. The first corruption led to the Babylonian invasion and exile. The second corruption resulted in the Roman destruction of Jerusalem and the scattering of the Israelites. Another view is that these events are not fully concluded and that the final fulfillment of these prophecies will occur in the future, where believers will once again reclaim these lands and restore justice. Some scholars suggest that the verses also serve as a timeless warning. Whenever people fall into corruption and injustice, regardless of who they are, Allah will bring about a reckoning through means He chooses, whether through other nations, social collapse, or internal decay. Allah's principle: you are responsible for your actions. Allah beautifully summarizes this concept with a powerful lesson. If you do good for yourselves, and if you do evil, you do it to yourselves. Surah Al-Isra 17 verse 7. This verse is universal. Whether it applies to the believers who were victorious or to the Israelites who were repeatedly tested, the message remains the same. If you live with integrity, uphold justice, and honor your covenant with Allah, you will see the benefits in this life and the next. If you fall into oppression, betrayal, and corruption, you will ultimately bring harm upon yourselves. Some scholars believe that this verse was directed to the Muslims of that time, as a reminder to stay upright after reclaiming the lands. Others say it was directed to the Israelites, warning them that if they continued in corruption, punishment would return upon them again. Betraying the covenant, a universal warning. Betraying the covenant with Allah, turning away from His commands and abandoning justice, is not limited to any one nation, religion, or group. Whether it is the believers or the disbelievers, whether it is the Jews, the Christians, the Muslims, or any people on this earth, the principle remains the same. Allah's land belongs to Allah. Allah demands that His justice, His guidance, and His divine law be established on earth. When people abandon these principles, regardless of their identity, they bring upon themselves the consequences of their betrayal. The final promise, a critical turning point. Allah says in the Qur'an, "And when the final and second promise comes to pass," Surah Al-Isra 17 verse 7. In the beginning of these verses, Allah decreed that the children of Israel would cause corruption twice on earth. This is a divine decree that has unfolded and is still unfolding throughout history. When Allah mentions the second and final promise, many scholars interpret this to refer to the final phase of their corruption and the subsequent punishment. Allah describes how the oppressors will enter the Holy Land once again. Allah says, to enter the Masjid Al-Aqsa as they entered it the first time, and to destroy what they had taken over with total destruction. Surah Al-Isra 17 verse 7. This means they will enter the blessed land and cause great humiliation. Allah specifically mentions that they will humiliate your Allah faces. Some scholars have said that your faces could refer to the faces of the believers who are present there, those who will suffer under this oppressive invasion. Allah further explains that whatever was built high, they will bring it down. They will corrupt and destroy what has been established, causing widespread chaos, destruction, and injustice. Some scholars point out that this part of the verse closely matches the historical patterns and the current reality of the situation in Palestine, where we have seen continued conflict, destruction, and injustice in the sacred lands. They will enter as they did before. Allah says, "They will enter it as they entered the first time." Surah Al-Isra 17 verse 7. This suggests that the pattern will repeat. Just as they once entered with dominance and corruption, they will do so again. But the end of this phase is known only to Allah, a glimmer of hope, mercy and return. Allah follows this warning with a message of hope. Perhaps your Lord will have mercy upon you. Who is this mercy for? Some scholars say this refers to the believers, that despite hardship, Allah may grant His mercy and relief to those who remain steadfast. Others suggest it could refer to the people of the land in general, who may turn back to Allah and receive His mercy. Then comes a crucial condition. But if you return, we will return. Surah Al-Isra 17:8. What does this mean? Some scholars say this is a message to the Israelites. If you return to corruption, then Allah will return to punishing you. Others believe it is a message to the believers. If you return to striving in the path of Allah, to jihad, to standing firmly for justice and resisting oppression, then Allah will return to granting you victory. Understanding jihad in this context. The word jihad here is not limited to military struggle. It encompasses striving and struggling in all forms to establish justice, truth, and righteousness against evil, corruption, and oppression. It includes the spiritual struggle to purify oneself. It includes standing for the oppressed. It includes spreading the message of truth with wisdom and patience. If the believers sincerely return to this path, Allah promises that He will return with His support, His help, and His victories. Key takeaways. Betraying Allah's covenant brings destruction. This is a universal law that applies to all nations, whether Muslim, Jewish, Christian, or others. Corruption and injustice are the causes of downfall. When people abandon Allah's guidance, they face consequences. History repeats itself. The cycle of power, corruption, punishment, and mercy continues. Victory is tied to jihad, the sincere, righteous struggle in all its forms. Allah's mercy is always near, but we must earn it through our actions and sincerity. Stay connected with us for more reflections on Islamic history, the Qur'an, and current affairs. Subscribe and follow us to keep learning and to remain aware of the signs unfold.